I'm a retired general. Welcome to my channel. I'm here because what you see on the news tells you what is happening. I'm going to tell you what it means, as someone who has read intelligence assessments and been inside decision-making rooms. One more thing before we begin. This channel uses its revenue to fund student scholarships. If you subscribe, like, and comment, you are directly supporting that mission. Please hit subscribe now and turn on notifications. Now let's get into it. The number is 9. 9 countries. 9 separate governments. 9 times the same word delivered to the most powerful man in the world. No. Britain said no. Germany said no. France said no. Italy said no. Greece said no. Japan said no. Australia said no. South Korea said no. China did not even respond. Trump asked the entire Western alliance to send warships to the Strait of Hormuz, and every single one of them refused. His response posted in capital letters on Truth Social: "We don't need anyone's help. We never did." He started a war he said was over in the first hour. It is day 18. The strait is still closed, and he is standing alone. At the end of this video, I am going to tell you what those 9 rejections actually mean for the Strait of Hormuz, and why the answer is not what the White House wants you to think. Let me give you each refusal because the reasons are different, and each one tells you something about what this war has already done to America's position in the world. Germany said it was never consulted. German Foreign Minister Baerbock told reporters, "We expect the US and Israel to inform us, to include us in what they are doing." Germany, America's most important European ally, is saying out loud that it was never briefed on the goals before the first bomb fell. Britain said it would not be drawn into a wider war. France said any Hormuz mission must be coordinated with Iran, the country America is currently bombing. Italy said sending ships would mean entering the war. Luxembourg's deputy prime minister used the word blackmail on the record in Brussels about Trump's request. The EU's foreign policy chief said in front of cameras after a meeting of all 27 European foreign ministers, "Nobody wants to go actively in this war. Not one country. All 27. Finland's foreign minister used a phrase that is now being repeated in every foreign ministry in the world: defensive alliance. We will not be dragged into a war of choice. War of choice. That phrase has now been used by a Georgetown professor, a Finnish foreign minister, and a Luxembourg deputy prime minister, all on the record, in the same week. And then on the same day, every ally said no. Israel invaded southern Lebanon. Canada, France, Germany, Italy, and the UK issued a joint statement opposing that invasion. America's allies are now publicly pushing back against the expansion of a war America is fighting alongside Israel. Now let me give you the story running inside the administration at the same time. Because the alliance fracture is one crack. This is a different one. Joe Kent was the director of the National Counterterrorism Center, a Trump appointee, a decorated combat veteran with 11 tours, a Gold Star spouse. His first wife Shannon was killed by a suicide bomber in Syria while serving as a Navy cryptologist. He did not leak to a reporter. He did not resign quietly and disappear. He published his resignation letter on X for the entire world to read. His words were not diplomatic. He wrote that Iran posed no imminent threat to the United States. He wrote that the war was initiated due to pressure from Israel and its American lobby. He drew a direct line to Iraq. This was a lie, and is the same tactic the Israelis used to draw us into the disastrous Iraq war that cost thousands of our best men and women. He said he would not be part of the next one. He is not alone. Before he published that letter, he went to Vice President Vance, then to Director of National Intelligence Gabbard, then to Chief of Staff Susie Wiles. He followed the chain of command completely. He gave the administration every chance to respond privately before he said a word in public. Pentagon briefers had already told members of Congress weeks earlier that Iran had no plans to attack American forces unless the United States struck first. Senator Mark Warner, top Democrat on the Senate Intelligence Committee, said there was no credible evidence of an imminent threat. Trump's response to Kent was to call him very weak on security. Gabbard's response was to say that the president determines what counts as an imminent threat. That is what you say when you cannot defend the intelligence on its merits. Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Joe Rogan, the podcasters who helped build the media coalition that returned Trump to power. All of them have turned skeptical of this war. The base is still holding 77% of Republicans supported the Iran strikes in the latest NBC poll. But the influencers who shape where the base goes next are already moving. In modern politics, the influencers move first. The base follows. Now let me show you what the military reality in the Strait of Hormuz actually looks like, because it explains why no ally wants to send ships there. The U.S. fleet has been in the Persian Gulf for 18 days. It is the most powerful surface fleet in the history of the world, And it has not been able to open the Strait of Hormuz, not because it lacks firepower, because mines and shore-based missiles in a 21-kilometer-wide channel are a different problem than air superiority over Tehran. Iran laid underwater mines across the strait. Modern mines sit on the seabed using magnetic, acoustic, and pressure sensors. They detonate beneath a passing ship without physical contact. Clearing them requires slowing every ship to minimum speed, sending EOD divers and underwater drones to locate each mine, placing charges by remote vehicle, and detonating them one at a time. Throughout the entire process, every ship in the formation is a slow-moving target. Stinger teams, CIWS gun systems, and deck gunners on full alert. One mine, one detonation, at minimum speed, under fire. That is what clearing the Strait of Hormuz looks like. That is why a Turkish strategic analyst wrote this week, and I want you to hear this clearly, none of the U.S. destroyers are safe when they accompany any vessels out of the Persian Gulf. Nobody wants to become part of this ongoing conflict. And while this is happening, the USS Gerald R. one of America's 12 nuclear-powered aircraft carriers, is being pulled out of the Red Sea and towed to a NATO base in Crete. There was a fire on board, a nuclear aircraft carrier in an active war zone being removed from the theater for repairs. That story received almost no coverage because the NATO refusals dominated every headline. But pulling a nuclear carrier from the Red Sea in the middle of an active war is not a logistical footnote. It is a signal. Now, the answer to the question I asked at the start. What do 9 rejections mean for the Strait of Hormuz? The coalition model is the only model that works in the strait. The physics of the geography favor the defender. Narrow channel, shore-based missiles, mines. The attacker needs overwhelming coordination to safely sweep and escort. Without allies, that coordination does not exist at the level required. But here is what is shifting on the other side of the board. The United Arab Emirates, a country that has spent decades avoiding direct military entanglement, just signaled it may join a U.S.-led Hormuz operation. UAE's diplomatic advisor Anwar Gargash said publicly the UAE could join international efforts led by the United States to secure the strait. That is not diplomatic language. That is a declaration of potential intent from one of the Gulf's most powerful and economically essential states. The UAE's airports, ports, and investment flows depend on regional stability. Iranian missiles hitting Dubai are not just a physical threat. They are an existential threat to the UAE's entire economic model. Meanwhile, Russia is providing Iran with satellite photos to help Iranian targeters assess whether they are hitting American forces, and sending Shahed drone components. China has given Iran access to the Beidou satellite navigation system, an independent GPS alternative immune to Western interference. Iran is not fighting alone. The conflict is drawing in the world's 2 largest authoritarian powers as force multipliers. 9 allies refused. 1 Gulf state signals it may join. Russia and China are deepening support for Iran. The USS Ford is in Crete. Day 18. 0 tanker crossings. Trump posted that America never needed anyone. The world heard that message clearly, and the world is now acting on it. Each country according to its own interests, not Washington's. Subscribe. Notifications on. When Rubio releases the list of countries that agreed to help, this channel will be the first to tell you how small that list is. Tell me in the comments, do you think Trump made America stronger or weaker by declaring we never needed anyone? And do you think NATO survives this war intact? I read every answer,